Awesome. We are good to go. Perfect. Hi, Sarah. It's so good to have you here and on our first YouTube live streaming. Eek, haven't done this
Yeah,
before, so
I don't mean either. It's very exciting. Thank you for having me.
it's fabulous. Awesome, awesome. So, yeah, just for anybody who might be watching, this is we're just starting up a series called Ketones and Caffeine, and just chatting about the things all about the keto lifestyle, things that we encounter, and where we are able to just really add some value to people and just give some help and advice, or just discuss some things that we all encounter on the keto lifestyle, the good, the bad, the ugly, everything in between. So and today I've got Sarah with me, Sarah Ahern. So Sarah is a health coach, but I'm going to leave her to tell her own story. So welcome, Sarah. Let us know a bit about you and your story. So go for it.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you, Marielle. Okay, so my name is Sarah, and I'm a pre-cure certified health coach, and I have a business called Metabolic Switch. And I actually call myself now a metabolic health coach because my passion is metabolic health. So I got into this I've been a coach for about just over a year now. And prior to becoming a coach, I was a beauty therapist for nearly 22 years. And the story behind why I'm sort of doing what I'm doing now and why I'm so passionate about helping people on their health journey is because I saw a lot of my clients over the years that were young but old, and they were suffering. So many of them were on medications. So many of them had health issues that it just was really sad to see that this sort of epidemic of type 2 diabetes and all these chronic health conditions were just getting worse and worse. And myself, I've always been passionate about nutrition for myself, and I've been living the sort of low carb ketogenic lifestyle for about 20 years now. So I don't have a story as such for my
Wow,
own
20
health.
years.
Yeah,
That's a
yeah.
long time.
Is. And so the story isn't really about my own health journey. It was watching other people. And it really got me thinking about what's going on here. And I don't even remember how I sort of came about going low carb. I think it was in my early 20s when I started sailing the world on cruise ships. And I gained quite a lot of weight in 8 months, and I'm only a small person. And it was just eating, and drinking and partying and being a 20-year-old. And then I sort of learned that to lose weight, you could just, cut out the carbs. And I did it back then. I did it for that very reason, just to lose weight. There was no sort of long-term goal of
Hold on, hold on, hold on. 20 years ago, low carb was not exactly cool. It like what I hadn't even heard of low carb 20 years ago.
No, I don't
How did
even
you even find it?
I have no idea. I cannot even remember. But I think it went back to when I was sort of late teens. I remember feeling yucky, not very good, if I had high amounts of like breads and all that kind of starchy stuff. And I felt better without it. So I don't actually know I don't know how I did it, but I did it, lost the weight. And then I just realized that was as I went on throughout my life and had three children, and it was more like, well, if I did sort of go back to my old habits or, bring back the sort of carbs and the sugar, I really sort of identified with how my body felt. And it started to become more of a health thing, not a weight loss thing. And so and even today, now at 42, I still feel like I haven't aged at all. I feel 15. I feel the same way as I did. I don't feel any older. And I really put that down to what I've been eating. And so I am I believe in this lifestyle so much. And I believe that over the last 50 years, we have been conditioned to believe, this dietary advice, which is just so flawed. And this is the reason that we are here today as a nation. We are sick, we are fat, the type 2 diabetes is just, we've got children having type 2 diabetes now.
Yeah,
And this is all
absolutely.
lifestyle. This is lifestyle disease. It's not a progressive disease, it's a lifestyle one. And what we've been doing is not working. So I gave up my beauty therapy. I loved my job, but I was starting to lose the passion. And I started to ask myself, what am I passionate about? And it was health and nutrition. And I started doing my own study, just delving into these, podcasts of all these doctors around the world and chronic disease and all this stuff. And it just interested me so much that even now I don't watch TV. I listen to podcasts. That's what I do. And so then I discovered Precure, and I studied to be a health coach. And it has just been the most amazing, rewarding career. I mean, I've only done it a year, but I absolutely love it. And I just love helping people on a deeper level. When I was a beauty therapist, superficial level, that I made them feel good, which is great. But this is something bigger, and I just love it. Absolutely love it.
Absolutely. It's just, I think it's so cool that you've said you've kind of gone from superficial into something that is a lot deeper. And you always hear the old mantra of, beauty is from within. And you think, oh, well, if I drink loads of water, surely that must be good enough. Or I kind of lead a good lifestyle. I don't have a lot of fat, and I do kind of, you have your starches, etc. And you kind of look at the food pyramid and you follow the dietary advice that you generally get given, and etc. And then you find that it's not working.
Exactly.
And I love the fact that you've said, well, look, kind of gone from superficial on the outside and moved inwards, and really making that statement the truth. Beauty really does come from within.
Absolutely. And I mean, without health, we have nothing. You can have everything else in the world, but health is wealth. It's and the reason I've chosen to focus, sort of my niche, is I'd love to, reversing type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. And the reason I've chosen that and chosen to specialize in metabolic health is because almost every single disease that there is stems from sort of insulin resistance and mitochondrial dysfunction. And so if we can treat the root cause before we get to those diseases, we are at a less likely chance to even get them. When you think of Alzheimer's, we call that type 3 diabetes now. Yeah. So if we can treat, prevention is cure. We don't, food is powerful and it's medicine. And so if we can do that earlier on, we're going to lead a longer, healthier life, and our health span's going to increase. So
absolutely.
I've chosen this area. Yeah.
It makes me feel so sad when I'm in a supermarket. Excuse me. I'm in a supermarket, and I look at the trolleys that are around me, and people standing at the checkouts, and I see fatigue on their faces. We have something that we call, in my world, we call it carb face. And you can see it. It's that puffiness. It's that inflammation that just seems to just permeate through their bodies, and you can just see it in their faces, see it in their skin. Absolutely. And I look at the kids sitting in the trolleys, and I'm seeing obese children all around us, and that's really scary.
Absolutely.
Kids are not playing. Kids are not getting out there and being active. It's just so much sedentary and not just sedentary lifestyle, but also just seeing what they're eating, and how they are so addicted to the sugars and the carbs that they refuse to eat other things because of the addictive nature of the processed foods that we are giving them, because they're convenience foods. We're busy parents, we lead busy lifestyles, and well, if it's on the shelf, it must be okay. If you don't have the knowledge, it's like, well, let's just get them fed, give them the things that they want to eat, and they seem to be fine.
Absolutely. And I think parents these days are doing the best. They're looking at packets and they're like, well, this is saying it's healthy. You look at cereal. My children are not allowed cereal. It's never happening. Yes. But when you look at the box, and I showed the kids actually not so long ago at the supermarket, I said, look at this, it's got a 4-star rating, and they know what the stars mean, but there's no nutritional value in them. But for somebody who's not aware, they look at that and go, well, this is good, I'll buy this for my child, so it's not their fault. It's what we've been sort of, led to believe.
What we've been led to believe. Absolutely. And I think that there's a real revolution that is needed on a real ground level. New mums that have kids, or who just want that vitality and energy for themselves, because goodness knows you need that when you have toddlers and babies and young children. You need that energy for yourself. But being able to say, right, how do I raise my family better? How do I get this vitality and this energy back? And a lot of people don't cook anymore. It's in a packet, take it, warm it up in the microwave and eat it. And those I'm almost going to say hereditary traditions that have come down from grandmothers to mothers to, down to children, of just how to cook the basics, how to cook a basic meal and eat real whole food, meat, veg, salads, fruits to some degree, etc., and things like that. They just don't do it anymore.
No, you're so right. Absolutely.
And how do we begin to just teach young people, especially? Although I do notice something that I've seen, my kids are in their early 20s and 30s, and there has definitely been a reset in their thinking. I kind of get the feeling that young adults, a certain amount of young adults, are really looking at what we're eating, where their food comes from to some extent. Hence the real rise of veganism and vegetarianism and things like that, where people are starting to think more about what they're eating. I'm probably going to be shot for this, but I don't feel that veganism is healthy. For various reasons, and I have my reasons for that, but that's not a discussion for today. But the mere fact that people are thinking about where their food is coming from, or certain groups of people are starting to think about that, I find that really heartening. I find that really good.
Right. Yeah, that absolutely. Yeah, I think you're right there, and and I agree with you with the veganism thing as well. But yes, you're right. There is definitely the rise of vegetarian, vegan. But yes, they're thinking about it. So that's a good start, isn't it?
Absolutely. It starts with awareness, doesn't it? It starts with awareness.
Absolutely.
Right. So that brings us a little bit to sort of our feelings around things and the low carb lifestyle, or ketogenic lifestyle, or low carb ketogenic, whichever way you kind of look at it, because there really is a range, isn't there, of keto
spectrum, sort of, absolutely.
True. So we have sort of your low carb, looking at your carbs, either looking at net carbs or at total carbs, and then you're looking at your keto, which is right at the upper end of sort of doing your 20 total carbs, which is very low in carbohydrates and everything in between. But taking a look at that, we've just had the festive season that we've just gone through, and I'm finding a lot of people in my community, even though we're nearing the end of January, haven't quite gotten back on the wagon yet. And they've fallen off a bit. What are you finding in yours?
Yeah, the same with mine as well. And it's a challenging time over December, January. And, people do find it hard. They sort of give themselves permission to have the odd, treat or guilt-free meal, but often it can lead to this sort of spiral effect of it getting out of control. And, one meal turns into, a couple, and then before you know it, 6 weeks have gone by and they're still doing it. So it's quite common. It's very normal, and the food is still around. There's still lots of, it's summertime. There's lots of things. There's things to go to, barbecues, and there is more drinking and more food available to us, and the snacking and it's not always the most, obviously best food for us. So it is hard, but it's common. It's normal.
Absolutely, and I think that normalizing it makes it a lot more accessible and easier for people. It doesn't give them permission to just go off the rails, but understanding that, my goodness, white knuckling through Christmas is probably not mentally, psychologically the best thing to be doing. So what is the kind of advice that you give to people in your community going into a festive season like that? So what does that look like?
Yeah, that's a great question. What I did for my clients leading up to Christmas is I did a little video, because I had clients that were just stepping out of their 12-week program on the 21st of December. So they were nervous and they were scared to actually navigate, to January and not knowing what to do. So my advice around this time is that it depends, obviously, where you are on your journey. So everyone is different. And if you are already, been living this lifestyle for a while, being able to allow yourself to have the odd, meal that's guilt-free, and they get back on track straight after, they can do that. And then you've got others who, I call them, they're carb sugar addicts. And my advice to them, and especially the ones that finished the 12 weeks right on Christmas, was they had to ask themselves, can they just have one meal and go back to the way it was on the very next meal, or is it going to spiral out of control? And have they reached their health goal yet? And if they haven't, is it the right thing to delve into something that's not going to serve them very well? So my advice to people going into Christmas is obviously to plan. Having a plan is the most important thing. And I think most health coaches say this, because planning and prepping is key.
Oh, isn't it? It's the ultimate. It is probably the one factor that I would say is it's the bottom line. It's the bottom line. If you haven't planned for it, oh my goodness, everything just goes pear-shaped.
Absolutely.
Because it's the holiday spirit, or it's the stress of having family over Christmas where you have to feed these hordes of people.
That's right.
And you're unprepared, and it's just so easy to make a bowl of pasta or whatever when you're feeding a whole bunch of people, and you think, oh my gosh, I haven't got the time or the energy or the mental space to prepare something for myself as well. I'll just have that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I always say to them, well, figure out what, generally most people know what their schedule looks like, their event schedule. Look at how many times that you're going out and decide what you're going to do at that event. Are you going to enjoy something that's off the plan but make it part of the plan? Or are you going to not do it on that one and do it on the next one, and figure it out and go into it knowing? And if you're going into it where you want to not have anything not naughty or whatever, then prepping beforehand on that day, my advice is to eat a meal before you go out and fill up, have some fat, have some protein, and don't feel tempted, because temptation always wins over willpower.
Oh, heck yeah. In
front of you, and seeing food it's visual, it's so normal. Just it's so hard. You go into it with good intentions, but you put that food in front of them, it's hard. So fill up beforehand, and if it means that you're having more food that day, prior, I sort of say to people, don't fast on that day, because I feel like there's going to be more temptation. It's going to be easier to give in to the temptation. I actually advise, if you've got to have 3 meals that day, and just eat a little bit, but it's obviously whole unprocessed food, then that is better than going all day fasting and then binging at the event that night.
Absolutely, because it's that sort of almost binging and then guilt and then the whole thing that goes along with that, which makes absolutely no sense, because that just puts us back into that realm of that unhealthy relationship with food after all.
Exactly. And then I sort of say to them, prepare your meals, make sure you know in advance what you're having. If it means that you've got to have some pre-cooked meals in the freezer that you've got ready to go over that time, and I sort of say, lower your expectations around fasting and losing weight over that time. There's so many people they feel like they've failed if they have intentions to do a fast, but then they don't go through with it, and then they feel bad. And then I just sort of, it's better to, I say better to eat food over that time, good food, than to have these high expectations that you want to do these long extended fasts. Is it really the right time to do this fast? And if you do fall off the wagon, I don't like it when it's not good the next day to go into a fast to punish yourself because you ate that meal.
Oh, so that's unhealthy behavior
that we don't want happening.
No.
Yeah.
Because it really is, it is a mental thing, almost more than anything else. And if we keep in that realm of where you have made the conscious decision, and this is what I tell the people, again, in my community, as I say to them, I don't want you losing weight over Christmas.
Yeah.
I don't want you losing weight over Christmas simply because you put yourself in that mental space of the guilt. If I have had the stuff, which is sitting right in front of me, and it's really difficult to say no. I always say, don't rely on won't power. I won't eat this and I won't eat that. And that's not helpful at all. So my advice to them is to say, look, let's maintain. So maintenance implies not overdoing things, because if you overdo it, you're not going to be maintaining, right? Absolutely. But we're not focusing on the other aspect, which is the losing part. So don't fast. There's no need to fast unless intermittent fasting is your thing and you comfortably fit into that, and it's where you're at. Or if you're doing one meal a day and you have been doing one meal a day and you're comfortable with that,
Mm.
keep going by all means. But if you do step into 2 meals a day or even 3 meals a day, if that is something that you have been doing on the odd occasion during that time, it's okay. It's no problem. It also makes it so much easier to, once the festive season is over, to continue your journey from a point of, I talk about it as being a ladder. You're climbing up a ladder. You're only taking a step or two down the ladder. You haven't slid all the way down to the bottom, and you're trying to kind of find your way back with that. It's a step or two down, or not. You just sit where you are, or a step or two down, just quietly resetting and moving forward. So on that note, with the whole idea of resetting, let's hear some of your ideas and your strategies that you would advise people to, okay, right, so things haven't quite gone to plan, and very often they don't go to plan.
That's right.
We all tend to kind of say, well, I've got this wonderful idea in my mind, and I'm going to be good, and it's going to be great. And it's like, oh, it wasn't that great.
Exactly. Yes. And
so
I've
what now? What now?
Yeah, what now? So I've had a few clients reach out to me saying that their plan didn't go to plan, and they're all really rearing to go to do a great extended fast, like a 48-hour one. They want to get straight into it. But what I find, and this is what I find for myself, and I guess I have done what I sort of advise my clients to do, is don't get into a fast straight away, because if you have been sort of indulging in sugar, and we know how addictive sugar is, and I know for myself, I have the odd guilt-free meal and treat and stuff, and it's fine, but it's interesting how fast those cravings come back. And I find that if you go into a fast that very next day, you've had some naughty meals the day before or whatever, and you're going into that fast, one, you get those sugar cravings, they're there, and it makes it so much harder to actually do a fast. So I tell my clients to advise my clients, not tell them, sorry. I advise them to sort of have a couple of days, even if it's 3 to 4 days of eating strict, clean food. Do it that way, sort of almost go back to the way it was when you first start going, on a ketogenic lifestyle, and have some fat, and get the MCT oil back in there, get the ketones going again, then go into a fast. And then you're going to get better ketones anyway. You're going to get into a deeper state of autophagy if you are burning ketones, not coming from a sugar, the past few weeks of having sugar. So they get better numbers if they are testing their blood glucose and their ketones, if they've done some clean eating prior. So, I find it so much. And I must admit, I sort of give that advice, but I myself, who's been a faster for 7 years and done extended fasts all the time, I thought that I could just go back into a fast myself. And I struggled. I really did. And so I thought, right, I need to do what I say to everybody else to do. So I've just done, I think I did like a week of clean eating, and I did my first 48-hour fast last week. And it was great, and it was easy, and it wasn't hard, but I had attempted about 3 or 4 of them prior, thinking I can do this. I'm strong at this. I've been doing this lifestyle for so many years, but I just really struggled. And it was, I was just thinking about food and treats and,
it totally takes over your mind, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
And one of the things that I like to tell, or I like to tell them, like to advise, is to say, I want you sated. I want you satisfied. I want you full up to the eyeballs. So the very first meal that you do high protein, high fat, keep your carbs down, but fill up. And the moment that you get hungry again, fill up. Don't be concerned. If it happens 2 hours later, eat. I want you to eat. The advice is to not eat, because your chemistry, your body chemistry is working against you. And after all, it's a chemistry set. It's not because you have no willpower. Your chemistry is telling you, hey, that awesome fast energy I had yesterday, can I please have some more of it? That's an evolutionary, biological urge, need to fill up so that you can pack on the weight so that you're ready for winter. But guess what? We don't have winter. We have supermarkets, which is the problem.
That's so true.
But the biological urge is still there. So you're not weak-kneed and weak-willed simply because those cravings are there and you're giving into them. It's a chemistry set. So let's work with your body's chemistry and say, okay, right, let's feed you really well. Let's feed you whole unprocessed food. Keep the carbs low. Prioritize your proteins and your fats. Do that for 2 or 3 days until you feel that food urgency dialing
That's
back
right.
again. And you have that peace and you have that calm in which you can actually make decisions about what you want to do.
Absolutely, I agree. And it's different for everybody, but you do get that feeling if you've been living that ketogenic lifestyle, you know when you're ready for that fast. If you eat prior to it, that feeling comes back of feeling satiated, feeling fat adapted again, and fueling on ketones. You're not going between both. You're ketones, which is a consistent energy source. So you feel good and you're full. Yeah. So that's my advice, really getting back into it.
It's awesome advice, and it's definitely something that anybody who's really in the keto world will truly understand, that is, once again, it's got to do with the relationship with food. It's dialing back those cravings. It is just getting rid of guilt. We just don't do guilt on a ketogenic diet. It doesn't make any sense.
No,
and I think one of the major how should I put it, underlying philosophies out of this is it is not a diet, it is a lifestyle. So we think about food and eating over longer periods of time. It's what you do over 7 days, not what you do over 1 day.
Exactly.
And panicking about that just because your amount of meals that you've had the previous day, there were 3 of them, and today there's going to be another 3 of them because I simply can't get a handle on things, and I might need to do that again tomorrow. And soon I'll find, all right, I'm calm enough to kind of dial in and ask the question, am I hungry?
That's right. Stopping.
Am I hungry?
Identifying, is it a craving? Is it hunger? Is it emotional?
Absolutely.
And I think over Christmas too, there's a lot of emotions. Christmas can be such a great time for people, but also can be such a stressful time.
Yeah.
And we know what emotional eating, it stems back to issues from the past or whatever, and we use food to soothe our emotions. So it's healing ourselves to heal our relationship with food.
Absolutely. All right, so let's recap for just a second. So moving into Christmas, the advice is
planning, having a plan, and meal prepping as well.
100% planning, meal prepping, and possibly considering maintaining rather than the actual fasting, etc. So, or trying to lose the weight.
Yes.
Coming back into it again, what is the basic advice on that one?
Eat food. Just eat until you're full. Prioritize your protein and your fat.
Yeah.
Go back to the basics of what it was when you first started. And if it means that you're eating a bit more, don't stress about it. Just do it. And it only takes a couple of days generally if you are well fat adapted. You switch over pretty quickly because you're efficient doing that. So just eat the food, and then when you feel ready, you can go into a fast if that's what you choose to do.
Yes, definitely. And it's just getting into that mental space of peace and calm. And that is what ketones do, because ketones help with that neuronal excitability. And it just, your brain literally calms down. You settle and you can just think clearly. That brain clarity comes back. The brain fog has gone again.
Yeah, absolutely.
You just have that energy. You feel better.
Yes.
And quite often I find that when people do indulge, one of the first things they say when they kind of come back on board is, oh my gosh, I have forgotten how awful that feeling of where I feel like I'm dragging myself through a heavy fog.
That's right. That's so true.
Hey, let reality be the teacher. I always say that. Let it be the teacher.
Exactly. It's so true. And sometimes it's not good in a way, but they can see that they don't want to go back to those feelings, and they had those feelings. It was their normal before they started this lifestyle, and you don't even recognize it. It's just that's how it is. But when you've come from a clean ketogenic lifestyle and you go back and do that, they feel that the brain fog and the lethargicness comes back, and the tiredness, and they think, I don't want to do this, I want to go back. But I think also one other advice I like to say is that if you do decide to have a guilt-free meal, enjoy it and don't feel bad about it, because there's no point feeling bad about it. Get back on your next meal and enjoy it.
Absolutely, because you don't enjoy it when you're sitting feeling guilty about every little morsel you're popping into your mouth. Then what's the point?
Exactly. exactly.
And I think that is where knowledge really is power, where you can say to yourself, I'm going into this eyes wide open. And if there's another really underlying principle of the ketogenic diet is authenticity. It is authentically tucking into the innate intelligence of your body and saying, am I hungry? How do I feel? Knowing that I'm going to have this high carbohydrate meal or whatever it might be, or I'm going to have this drink. I know full well what it's going to do, how I'm going to feel the next day. It might not affect you like it affects everybody else. I find that with a high carb meal the next day, my mood is incredibly low.
Yeah.
And then I kind of lose a day to a lack of productivity. And I have to weigh up the pros and cons of, am I going to enjoy this as a social event because I'm around people? Or I won't say it might be a requirement that I would enjoy the foods that are there, because it's always a choice. It's always a choice. Let's not fool ourselves. It's always a choice. You can say no. Yes, there's consequences to saying no, and you can say yes, and there's consequences to saying yes.
Yes, exactly.
Which is why I talk about the authenticity. You are very real about what you do in your life. And that realness, I think, is freedom. It really is freedom, because you're not fooling yourself anymore by saying, oh, it wasn't that bad. I didn't have that much, but hey, the scale has gone up 5 kilos. So, well, then it must have been that bad.
Exactly.
But we don't like to face those things. So if you tuck into that realness of living this lifestyle, as I say, it's absolute freedom.
Absolutely. And also, just one other little thing I thought when you mentioned about saying no. A great way to, if you are in that situation, so many people feel pressured that they have to eat what they've been put, someone's made it for them, or they're going to get upset if they don't. That happens all the time, actually. Instead of saying, I can't eat that, a great little thing to say is, oh no, I don't eat that. Because it sort of takes it away, because people, why can't you eat it? Well, you want to diet. Well, that's stupid. Just enjoy yourself. Just have a little bit. What's not going to harm you? I don't eat that. It's sort of like, well, okay, she doesn't eat that. She might not like it. She just, it's a nice little way to twist it, and so people leave you alone. Because
the other thing as well is to simply say, when I eat that, it makes me feel awful.
Yeah.
And someone is hardly going to feed you food that's going to make you feel awful.
Exactly. You can't.
And then they're fine with that. So
that's right.
Sarah, it's been awesome talking to you today.
So and thank you, Marielle.
I've just loved being able to just put this out there, and hopefully when somebody's watching this, they can just really pick up and say, hey, okay, so I can reset. It's not like I failed. It's the ebbs and flows of this lifestyle, and it just gets easier and easier the longer you do it.
Absolutely.
And that's just amazing. So thank you so much, Sarah, for being here today.